Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are talking about a rumor that has spread like wildfire. Over the last few days, the conversation about Nintendo rumors and leaks has really been on overdrive as of late. I would say just the Nate the Hate podcast alone almost kind of felt like a general direct, at least in terms of first-party announcements, all the things we are hearing there. And we've covered that already. We've talked about how we're hearing from Nate the Hate that Splatoon Raiders, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, Rhythm Heaven, all those are supposed to come out during the summer. Some kind of version of Switch Sports, be it a sequel or a Switch 2 edition, is also apparently on the way. A Switch 2 edition of Pikmin 4, which has already been rumored, is also supposedly coming out at some point this year, maybe this summer, we shall see. And of course, the big ones, a new classic Star Fox coming out really soon, presumably early summer, getting announced this month of April, and for Zelda's 40th anniversary later on into the year, a full remake of Ocarina of Time. And yesterday we dived even further into this topic because we heard from others, such as Special Nick, that this title has a huge budget, suggesting that it's not just a simple remake, but something huge, something significant, and there's a lot of possibilities there, which again we talked about yesterday. And so a lot of this has been dominating the conversation as of late, and it's been really interesting. But more has been happening, and I haven't covered it yet, and I wasn't sure I was going to, but you know what? I will. I'm going to cover it, I'm going to talk about it. I'm not saying I believe it. To be clear, all of this stuff you should be taking with a grain of salt. That said, I think people like Nate the Hate, Special Nick, they are reliable insiders because they have a history of correctness. It's not to say they will get everything right, you should take it as gospel. No. But, given their histories, where they've consistently gotten many things correct, it is suggestive that they hear legitimate information. Therefore, it's absolutely worthy of conversation and considering as a possibility. This other rumor, though, that's caught on like wildfire, I'm more skeptical on, but there is something to it that is suggestive that it might be based in at least some level of truth. So let's dive further into that. But before doing so, I have this goal to reach 60,000 subscribers. So if you find yourself enjoying my videos and you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. So this Reddit post right here is kind of outlining pretty much all the information about this crazy rumor here. But basically, it starts with this comment that was discovered on Nintendo Forecast's channel that came out just a few days ago, March 26th, which was the day before Nate the Hate's podcast. Now, this comment is from 3 days ago, so it's hard to say with certainty if the comment happened right after Nate the Hate's podcast or right before. The timing is pretty close. But what Mal932 is saying here, a classic Star Fox is coming in June, the Adventure one is still coming, but not in 2026, Super Metroid is also close, along with a new Switch Sports, a Wario Land title, possibly 2027, and Ocarina of Time remake for this year. I would love to also see Mario 3D this year, but I fear 2027 is the year to go. So a lot of what's being said here was said by Nate the Hate, as we just recently explained, and it seems like these comments came out around the same time. People are thinking that it came out a bit before. So the fact that most people trust Nate the Hate, given that this Mallow person saying a lot of similar things that many would not be able to predict, and it may have happened beforehand, they are led to believe that this is legitimate information. And there are some other nuggets here. So one of those nuggets is that not only is there a new classic Star Fox coming out at the beginning of the summer, but there's also a one based off adventure, like Star Fox Adventures, coming out later. Like, not this year, but later on, but they're working on it. And I'll just say that I'm very skeptical on the idea of a new Star Fox Adventures to come out to follow a classic Star Fox. I don't want to rule it out 100%, but it just seems kind of odd that we go through this long hiatus of Star Fox, and they bring back Star Fox in the movie, and then they come out with a game very quickly. Like, that part I believe, but a second game to come out not too long afterwards, I'm not entirely sure. However, I'll also say this. The idea of going through these efforts of including someone like Star Fox in the Mario Galaxy movie is to build the brand, have success with a game, sure, but to make sure that IP is strong again, that it has an audience so they can go back to it again. It's one of the reasons why I believe Donkey Kong Bonanza is just the beginning for a new era of 3D Donkey Kong. They spent a while rebuilding the Donkey Kong brand, not just with Bonanza, but Donkey Kong's involvement with the prior Mario movie, the Donkey Kong Park expansion to Super Nintendo World, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, the overall redesign, how we're seeing it in different games like Mario Tennis and Mario Kart. So I believe this investment, this effort that's been going on for years with Donkey Kong, is because they want the Donkey Kong IP to be an IP they can go back to moving forward, not just a one-off every 8 or 10 years, but with more consistency. And so if Nintendo is doing something like that similar with Star Fox, then yeah, I do think other Star Fox games should be in the works. If the plan is to bring back Star Fox in a big way, that would be amazing. Still though, to hear about another Star Fox game, an ambitious one also being in the works, I'm not sure we would have heard about it so quickly, but you know, if it's happening, I'm all for it. We'll see. Now, the other part here, they talk about Super Metroid. Now, Super Metroid, I'm all for it. I'm all for a remake of Super Metroid. I'd be very excited about it. We've actually been talking about it for a while already. A few weeks ago, I made a video talking about how a Super Metroid remake is actually pretty darn likely, and I made that discussion because a week before that, so in other words, about 3 weeks ago, this rumor came out from Nash Weedle that Mercury Steam is remaking Super Metroid. Now, lately, Nash Weedle has certainly been under a lot of criticism because they had said they had heard from multiple sources that there would be a direct happening in either February or March where we would see the reveal of 3D Mario and the next title from Monolith Soft. That's not happening, clearly. So he's wrong on that. But there are still plenty of other things that Nash Weedle has gotten correct, as we've covered in the past. He even teased this Star Fox announcement that would be getting revealed in April to come out early in the summer before Nate the Hate. Now, none of it has been confirmed yet, but if you believe Nate the Hate, then, you know, you would have to think that Nash Weedle would also be correct here. Nash did say it first, so he couldn't have gotten it from Nate's podcast. My point simply is that there is a history of Nash Weedle getting some things correct, but not everything, so yeah, take it with a grain of salt. Maybe consider it like a 50-50 chance, we shall see. But point is, this information has already been circulating for a few weeks here, so this comment saying a Super Metroid remake is close, I don't think is necessarily like an incredible leak. It could just be based off this rumor, or just based off the research that I was able to do, which led to my own video suggesting that yeah, Super Metroid remake is pretty likely. Now, maybe it's not a remake, maybe it's just a new title for Mercury Steam. We've seen the data for that, relating to Metroid, seemingly. But main point here is that the Super Metroid thing alone is not really that crazy of a thing. Now, to call for a Wario Land title, that one's kind of crazy if that ends up being true, because we haven't gotten a Wario Land in many years. The last Wario Land came out back in 2008 for the Nintendo Wii, and the Wario Land series is technically a 2D series. Wario World was a one-off that was a 3D platformer on the GameCube. So that actually sounds pretty exciting. I would love to see a new mainline Wario Land platformer adventure title. Like, that would be really cool. At first, I kind of assumed they meant like a WarioWare title, because those come out pretty frequently, but they say Wario Land, so that's really interesting. We'll see if that comes true. And then everything else they've said, we've heard from Nate the Hate. Still though, the timing of this comment is still under debate. It's possible they could just be keeping up with all the rumors and leaks. They saw the Nate the Hate podcast immediately and then commented immediately on this video. Because we don't have the exact timestamps here, there could be a few hours of wiggle room. Possibly. However, this user said something similar in a prior Nintendo Forecast video that happened 9 days ago, where they called for the Super Metroid remake, a classic Star Fox, a One of Adventure, the Ocarina of Time remake, Switch Sports, Wario, all that was implied for this year except for the Adventure one, which does line up with things said by Nate the Hate and Nash Weedle. The Super Metroid remake, as I said earlier, has been around for longer, but all the Star Fox stuff, the Switch Sports stuff, the Ocarina of Time stuff, that wasn't established. Of course, there's been reason to believe in the Ocarina of Time remake, as I've been covering for years. I've been theorizing it for years, and a lot of people have thought, maybe it could happen for the 40th anniversary. I myself was thinking we'd have to wait just a year longer, but I'm very happy to hear from Nate that it's supposedly coming out this year. Fingers crossed that's actually 100% true. And I'll also mention that the idea of a Switch Sports is also fairly predictable because of the codename leaks. We've had the understanding that there is some sort of project relating to Switch Sports that's in the works. However, a video from this Italian YouTuber came out during the weekend that is claiming that even more information that was in Nate the Hate's podcast but expanded upon was actually shared to him a week prior. We see this screenshot here saying it came out on a Saturday at 11, but was it 11 a.m.? Was it 11 p.m.? Was it the Saturday beforehand? That's the implication. But there's no evidence here, from what I can see, that this happened before Nate the Hate's podcast. Because this video came out on March 28th, the day after the podcast. They could have easily made this video then. Now, I'm not claiming they're lying, I'm just saying there's no proof that this information came to them before the Nate the Hate podcast. They do also talk about how they trust this source because they've also leaked a remake of Mario Galaxy 2. Now, we have been talking about a Mario Galaxy 2 remaster for years because we thought Nintendo would probably have that for Mario's 40th anniversary, and that was confirmed, and also it was leaked by Special Nick way beforehand. So there is already a belief by many that there would be a Nintendo Direct sometime in the middle weeks of September, which is what this person's saying here, nothing too crazy, and they would have a remastered Mario Galaxy 2. They actually call it a remake, which, you know, has not really been remade. It was just kind of a simple remaster. A nice, simple remaster, but that's what it is. It's a simple remaster. So this alone doesn't give me much reason to believe whatever this source is. That's just kind of like a little thing. That said, this video had even more details. Not just the starfox stuff, not just that 3D Mario's delayed, not just the Switch Sports thing, not just the Dust Bloods thing towards the end of 2026. All this was said by the Nate the Hate podcast, but also that the Mario Kart World DLC has been delayed to 2027, and that the Super Metroid remake will have a pixel art style, which, if that's the case, I think I might be disappointed by that. I was kind of hoping for, like, you know, a Dread style kind of game, but apparently also they're still working on a Dread style kind of game, a follow-up. It just won't be coming out this year, so this pixel style would be like an in-between. We shall see. But the big exciting thing to hear to me is they say that the Ocarina of Time remake will not be based on the 3DS version, further suggesting, as we've already discussed, that this is going to be something bigger, more ambitious, perhaps more so a reimagining. But as this post points out, big grain of salt because the DMs could be made up. There's no proof they came out before the Nate the Hate podcast, and it could be coming from the same person in the YouTube comments. As noted, the YouTuber by the name of Michelle, also that commenter that pointed out the stuff in the Nintendo Forecast videos, has the same name. So it could all just be one fabrication by this creator. So I would take this stuff with a grain of salt. The idea that there could be a Star Fox Adventures, that there's going to be a Super Metroid remake in a pixel art style, and I guess technically the Ocarina of Time 3D thing not being a thing, like all that, you know, from this source supposedly, or sources supposedly, we'll see. There's not enough there for me to be like, yeah, this is for sure a legitimate leaker here with legitimate information. But I do think that the Ocarina of Time remake is going to be more ambitious. As we talked about yesterday, I don't think it's going to be based off the 3DS version. I think that would be a terrible mistake, as I've talked about repeatedly. The idea of another Star Fox game, one based off a Star Fox Adventure, like a follow-up to that, is very exciting, and I do think it does make sense. I just don't know if we'd be hearing about it so quickly when we haven't even seen the reveal for this new Star Fox that's more on the classic style. Now, a pixel art for Super Metroid Remake, that would be very unexpected. But depending on how it looks, I would be open to it, especially if it still means we're getting another new 2D Metroid not too long afterwards. And Wario Land, well, that'd be cool. But we haven't gotten one in many, many years, generations, so I'll believe it when I see it. Or if more compelling evidence presents itself. So yes, I'm skeptical on these things. Regardless, I still think some great stuff is on the way, as we've been discussing over the last few days. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.